As a biopharma company, consultancy or investor, how do you identify, validate and prioritize opportunities, maximizing the value of your asset, portfolio and, ultimately, your organization? Often, what's needed is to bring in independent expertise for trusted validation on internal models or hypotheses, or specialist assistance with uniquely sophisticated analysis. Evaluate Consulting and Analytics are here to help you solve your specific biopharma pipeline, portfolio and commercialization challenges. We support you with best-in-class datasets, powerful analytical capabilities and deep expertise from both a commercialization and therapy area perspective. Our defining difference? We can draw on the whole of Evaluate's data and analytical capabilities, along with our team's broad expertise and our primary and secondary market research capabilities to support you across a wide range of requirements. When you need to identify and assess new business opportunities, reduce risk, raise the quality and speed of decision-making, and obtain strategic expert recommendations, make us your port of call. Evaluate Consulting and Analytics. Definitive answers to your unique and complex questions.
Chen Beidar is Evaluate's Chief Consulting Officer, and he works closely with pharma organizations and investment companies to help them make the best decisions for their companies. He's joined today by Amy Brown, Deputy Editor of our Evaluate Vantage service. She's a journalist with extensive experience in biopharma and the financial markets, and many of you will recognize Amy's name from the many articles and reports that she's written for Evaluate.
So this first slide is a look at what will be the biggest sellers this year. Obviously, we're dominated by COVID still. Consensus forecasts for the antivirals was only just coming in when we wrote the preview 4 months ago. Since then, billions of sales have been added for this year alone. I think this is all going to be a flaw for these COVID numbers. I think they're only going to go one way, and that is up. There's a lot of contracts signed already. Obviously, as we all also already know, the pandemic remains very unpredictable. So we will have to see how those numbers develop over the year. Outside of COVID, this is going to be the last big year for Humira, AbbVie's big anti-TNF. It's hard to overestimate how massive this product has been. It's been the best-selling drug since 2012. That took over from Lipitor. It's hard to think that we're going to see another product that quite amass the sort of lifetime sales we've seen with Humira, if only because of the kind of political efforts to curb such kind of monopolies. So this next view is a kind of another way of looking at where the sector is spending all its money. We've got this is an Evaluate Omnium analysis. They take real world data and company disclosed R&D spend to throw out these estimated costs of clinical programs. These are an estimate, I would stress. This is you'll always get the projects that have got the big cardiovascular outcome studies, the big long running trials that will rank highly here. The final section for me is just a quick look at the regulatory environment. This is just the FDA's novel drug approvals. I mean, I think there was a lot of concern during the pandemic that we would see the regulatory process almost grind to a halt. I mean, that obviously didn't happen. There were certainly delays, and perhaps the last couple of years would have been even bigger if we hadn't have had those. But I mean, I think historically, the last couple of years don't really look too weak. This year, I don't think any massive changes expected. You know, the FDA's finally got a permanent commissioner. Robert Califf, I think he's viewed as a fairly safe pair of hands. But it is the FDA user fee program reauthorization this year. I think PDUFA 7 we're on to now, possibly PDUFA 8.
Hello, everyone. So when we look at the stock market, we see that biotech has been in a bear market since early last year, and the current global environment hasn't helped to make it more attractive, unfortunately. While we don't know where the bottom is, we know that this impacts the short-term valuations and momentum to access public markets. That's where it brings us to the IPO market, actually. For the IPOs, unsurprisingly, we don't see a lot of activity within IPOs. We have just seen one file this week with AN2 Therapeutics recently. However, we feel that there are companies waiting in line until the market conditions get better. Although this seems a bit depressing, the fundamentals are very strong with the R&D productivity, proving that the emerging mechanisms of action and technologies are getting better at solving unmet needs. As we have seen with mRNA during COVID. That's why we see a confidence in private investments, such as venture capital firms, actually. And when we look at VC and private investing, if you take out the peak in Q1 last year, the trend is actually still strong. However, we have started seeing the late stage ventures converging to public market valuation. Early stage companies are still priced at premium, and this will probably continue a bit like this until we see a lot more decrease in public market valuation, impacting both the early stage and the late stage biotech company firms. And if you look at the biopharma buyouts, understandably, Q1 has been a bit quiet, given the fact that what's going on in the global landscape. There have been announcements around from Pfizer, UCB, and Viatris, but we have yet to see some significant momentum. The premiums are still high, especially at the early stage, as I mentioned. In light of these facts, probably one question that we could ask is that whether we will be able to see premiums going down a bit and we start seeing more of the M&A activity. And I think we have to wait and see to test this hypothesis. I mean, there's generally no correlation between big pharma and M&A buyouts, but certainly we don't have a crystal ball right now, but probably we need to wait and see what the market will bring us in the near future. Finally, when we look at licensing, which is probably one of the best signals, which shows confidence in innovation R&D, is we see the upfront licensing fees are still on the rise, cementing this confidence. Although we haven't seen a blockbuster deal yet, given the fact that the public valuations are coming to a more chewable state, we believe there will be opportunities, as I mentioned before, in the coming months. And actually, by looking at the projects that we have been involved in, I can say that there have been some significant activity boiling up recently, both in terms of licensing opportunities or searching for licensing opportunities, or in terms of small to mid-size acquisitions. As a summary, we can confidently say that pharma has strong fundamentals, with the R&D machine working smoothly at the moment. Yeah, we see some kind of failures in the late phase stages of the clinical development, but there's still the machine is working really efficiently and smoothly in terms of bringing up or testing new or emerging technologies to the marketplace. I guess also there has been some kind of a recent article from Morgan Stanley touching on this as well, looking at the pharma productivity and R&D. In that regard, we have 4 recommendations to pharma companies. First of all, you should keep continuing investing in R&D programs, especially in new technologies and unmet needs. For example, and again, I mean, I've given this example before, but messenger RNA has shown its potential during COVID. From the partnership perspective, it's crucial to identify and establish partnership with early stage companies, not from the fact that building a portfolio, but also from the fact that to orchestrate the drug discovery ecosystem, which will be very impactful in 5 to 10 years. However, when you are investing in early stage companies, what we also recommend is the fact that, especially with the emerging technologies, people should take a look at it from a different perspective, shifting from assets or portfolio of assets, or managing the portfolio of assets, to shifting it to managing the risks involved in the clinical development programs, or adopting a risk budgeting portfolio management scheme going forward. Finally, digital technologies. I guess no one could deny the impact of digital technologies. I mean, we have seen a lot of impact, improvement coming out of market. There have been several IPOs specifically in this space, both leveraging AI and ML to support drug discovery. We see a huge increase in the number of applications of digital health or digital therapeutics to develop and integrating novel digital biomarkers in diagnosis, monitoring, and managing diseases. So, with that said, it's going to be an integral part of the pharma or the life sciences to leverage digital technologies in your existing portfolio of products.